The city's adding more locations for bike sharing. By the end of the year, there will be 50 more places where you can pick up or drop off a blue bike. The expansion covers parts of Rosendale, West Roxbury, and Dorchester. To promote safe biking, the city also plans a series of clinics. To tell us what's planned is the Director of Active Transportation from the Boston Transportation Department, Stefanie Seskin. Thank you very much for being with us, Stefanie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So talk about what's going on with the expansion. If you were to put this on the map, what would people see?
Well, we do have a map, so hopefully people have seen it. We are adding more stations in the existing service area, knowing we've got a lot of demand, but we're also adding new stations in West Roxbury, parts of Roslindale, further south in Dorchester, really trying to get all of our neighborhoods connected into the system.
Well, one thing I noticed on the map is that maybe this is not entirely about new locations. I see this proliferation into Mattapan, for example. How has that been going?
It's been going pretty well. We host some rides and some pop-ups to try to engage more people. You know, it's still pretty new, so we're looking to have community members come out, meet with us, go on rides, test out the system, learn a little bit more about it. But I think people are excited that it's there.
Well, when you expand like this, you're not just adding stations. I imagine you're doing something so that somebody, whether they live in West Roxbury, Rosendale, or other sections of Dorchester, they're going to feel confident that they can get from here to there sort of safely.
Yeah, you know, for West Roxbury, we're going to host a community celebration in mid-September. We'll have some mini bike rides as part of that to just start exploring parts of the neighborhood by bike, and we'll probably follow up with some clinics and other things as we come back in the spring.
Why is it important to go to a clinic? I mean, especially for adults, they say, what can you teach me about riding a bike that I don't already know? How would you answer that?
I mean, a lot of adults don't know how to ride a bike. We do run clinics for adult women and people who are gender nonconforming. A lot of them grew up in places in the world where they weren't allowed to ride a bike, or they never really had the opportunity to. So these are really great, inclusive opportunities that are supportive, only other women in the space, for people to learn on their own pace.
I never biked 5 days a week, although I did do some biking in my younger years. I never got over the awkwardness. I mean, explain that for adults, because there are people who just feel they don't look right when they're on a bike.
Well, hopefully in our clinics we have like a pretty fun atmosphere, so everyone feels like they look the same as everyone else. And you know, riding to and from work is a great opportunity, but also just going out on the weekend, riding around Franklin Park or on the Harbor Walk is also really helpful for folks who are looking just to explore the city or get a little more physical activity. The blue bikes do look a little more clunky than normal bikes, but we do talk with folks about what kinds of bikes are available, different styles, what might fit best for them if they were to continue riding.
One of the other things I'm sure you help people with is riding in heavy traffic. I've seen some very daring left turns on Commonwealth Avenue. So how do you help people cope with that?
Sure. So we offer street skills clinics, and that's where we talk about some of the skills that you need to be able to do that. And we even go on a ride as part of that, so we can teach them, you know, how do you make a left turn? Do you want to merge across into that left turn lane, or do you want to do what we call a two-stage turn? So you cross and then cross again. To be able to make that left. Sometimes people are more comfortable that way, but we go through all of that in the clinic.
Now, there's one impression that you can probably get from many cities that are starting to add bike lanes, and that is that they can be kind of fragmented. You know, they're good for a while, and all of a sudden they break off. So I'm sure you're adding some new things here, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mayor Walsh dedicated the most money that has ever been in the bikes line in his FY20 budget. So we are launching a number of new projects this year. We're looking at Mass Ave between Milnea Cass and Columbia Road, for example, which is a pretty heavily used bike route without any bike lanes. And it's when you look at a map of the bike network, it's a pretty big gap, very noticeable. So we're excited to be working on that project this year.
What about one of the oldest, sort of main routes for bikers in Boston, the Southwest Corridor? You have some changes in mind for that too.
Yeah, so we're launching also some design projects there to look at improving the existing crossings along the corridor that are on city right-of-way. So making sure that they're nice and safe for people who are walking or wheeling, however they're getting around. And then we're also looking at something that we've been calling the Southwest Corridor Extension, which is taking inspiration from that success and improving crosswalks, sidewalks, and adding on-street bike routes from sort of Ruggles Station into South End, Back Bay, Bay Village, Beacon Hill, all the way up to Charles Circle.
Now, I know when you get that close, you almost don't even need a bike to get someplace pretty quickly. Why is it so important to add things like that so close to the center of the city?
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of our jobs and educational opportunities are located. And we really want to make sure that our residents have access to those opportunities by bike.
Of course, one of the other things I keep wondering about is, do you look at the total numbers here to get a sense about how maybe you're shifting people away from other ways of getting around the city?
Yeah, so the American Community Survey is put out by the U.S. Census Bureau every year, and we use that to look at how well we're doing meeting our Go Boston 2030 targets, not just for biking, but also walking and transit use. And I think while the percentages aren't necessarily booming the way that we would love them to, more people are riding and walking and taking the T than before. Sometimes if you're on Mass Ave during peak hour in the morning, you'll see like 500 cyclists come by, which is a pretty high number. And so we'd love to see even more people feel comfortable and confident riding.
Well, just by law of averages, when you have more people on bikes, you expect a downside, more people getting injured or even killed perhaps. But what do the numbers tell you about that?
In Boston, actually, we are happily doing pretty well in keeping people safe. We haven't had a fatality in a little while now on bike. Injuries are something that does happen. You know, I think what our Vision Zero approach is really about is trying to make it so that if someone makes a mistake, the street is forgiving enough that you don't get seriously injured or killed. So minor injuries, we'd like to get rid of those too, but we know that mistakes happen.
Right. Now, I know there are many cities around the world where people are more often riding bikes. I've seen them in New York. They zip over the Brooklyn Bridge, but Boston's so compact. Does that give us maybe an edge?
I think so. I mean, it's surprising how far you can get by bike in 45 minutes or less. I think the more that we build out bike lanes, the more we provide opportunities like bike share, programs to help people learn to ride. That really builds this community of folks who suddenly understand the city in a whole new way and connect with it and understand that they could go someplace on bike pretty fast.
And speaking of going fast and maybe feeling secure, you have some new lanes that are still under construction, but I think they're going to be ready pretty soon on
Hopefully.
Commonwealth Ave.
I know it's been quite a while, but that project will be finished sometime very soon. MassDOT has been managing the construction and they've run into some unexpected challenges, but we're really excited about that. We've also are soon opening similar design on Summer Street in Fort Point. And launching these extra design projects that I just mentioned.
Well, I know you have some clinics coming up pretty soon, and if people want some more details, where can they find that online?
You can go to boston.gov/bikes, and that's where all of our rides and clinics are listed.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Stefanie Seskin from the Boston Transportation Department.